Horowitz and I have published detailed results from 5 years of full-time searching with Project Meta and 2 years of follow-up. We can't report that we found a signal from alien beings. But we did find something puzzling. Something that for me, in quiet moments, every now and then, raises goosebumps. Of course, there's a background level of radio noise from Earth. Radio and television stations, aircraft, portable telephones, nearby and more distant spacecraft. Also, as with all radio receivers, the longer you wait, the more likely it is that there'll be some random fluctuation in the electronics, so strong that it generates a spurious signal. So we ignore anything that isn't much louder than the background. Any strong narrowband signal that remains in a single channel we take very seriously. As it logs in the data, Meta automatically tells the human operators to pay attention to certain signals. Over 5 years, we made some 60 trillion observations at various frequencies while examining the entire accessible sky. A few dozen signals survive the culling. They are subjected to further scrutiny, and almost all of them are rejected. For example, because an error has been found by fault detection microprocessors that examine the signal detection microprocessors. What's left? The strongest candidate signals after 3 surveys of the sky are 11 events. They satisfy all but one of our criteria for a genuine alien signal. But the one failed criterion is supremely important: verifiability. We've never been able to find any of them again. We look back at that part of the sky 3 minutes later, and there's nothing there. We look again the following day. Nothing. Examine it a year later, or 7 years later, and still, there's nothing. It seems unlikely that every signal we get from alien civilizations would turn itself off a couple of minutes after we begin listening, and never repeat. How would they know we're paying attention? But just possibly, this is the effect of twinkling. Stars twinkle because parcels of turbulent air are moving across the line of sight between the star and us. Sometimes these air parcels act as a lens and cause the light rays from a given star to converge a little, making it momentarily brighter. Similarly, astronomical radio sources may also twinkle, owing to clouds of electrically charged, or ionized, gas in the great near vacuum between the stars. We observe this routinely with pulsars. So, imagine a radio signal that's a little below the strength that we could otherwise detect on Earth. Occasionally, the signal will by chance be temporarily focused, amplified, and brought within the detectability range of our radio telescopes. The interesting thing is that the lifetimes of such brightening, predicted from the physics of the interstellar gas, are a few minutes, and the chance of reacquiring the signal is small. We should really be pointing steadily at these coordinates in the sky, watching them for months. Despite the fact that none of these signals repeats, there is an additional fact about them that, every time I think about it, sends a chill down my spine. 8 of the 11 best candidate signals lie in or near the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. The 5 strongest are in the constellations Cassiopeia, Monoceros, Hydra, and 2 in Sagittarius, in the approximate direction of the center of the galaxy. The Milky Way is a flat, wheel-like collection of stars and gas and dust. Its flatness is why we see it as a band of diffuse light across the night sky. That's where almost all the stars in our galaxy are. If our candidate signals really were radio interference from Earth, or some undetected glitch in the detection electronics, we shouldn't see them preferentially when we're pointing at the Milky Way. But maybe we had an especially unlucky and misleading run of statistics. The probability that this correlation with the galactic plane is due merely to chance is less than 0.5%. Imagine a wall-sized map of the sky, ranging from the North Star at the top to the fainter stars toward which the Earth's South Pole points at the bottom. Snaking across this wall map are the irregular boundaries of the Milky Way. Now, suppose you were blindfolded and asked to throw 5 darts at random at the map, with much of the southern sky inaccessible from Massachusetts declared off limits. You'd have to throw the set of 5 darts more than 200 times before, by accident, you got them to fall as closely within the precincts of the Milky Way as the 5 strongest meta-signals did. Without repeatable signals, though, there's no way we can conclude that we've actually found extraterrestrial intelligence. Or maybe the events we found are caused by some new kind of astrophysical phenomenon, something that nobody has thought of yet, by which not civilizations, but stars or gas clouds or something that do lie in the plane of the Milky Way emit strong signals in bafflingly narrow frequency bands. Let's permit ourselves, though, a moment of extravagant speculation. Let's imagine that all our surviving events are in fact due to radio beacons of other civilizations. Then we can estimate, from how little time we've spent watching each piece of the sky, how many such transmitters there are in the entire Milky Way. The answer is something approaching 1 million. If randomly strewn through space, the nearest of them would be a few hundred light years away. Too far for them to have picked up our own TV or radar signals yet. They would not know, for another few centuries, that a technical civilization had emerged on Earth. The galaxy would be pulsing with life and intelligence, but unless they're busily exploring huge numbers of obscure star systems, they'd be wholly oblivious of what's been happening down here lately. A few centuries from now, after they do hear from us, things might get very interesting. Fortunately, we'd have many generations to prepare. But if, on the other hand, none of our candidate signals is an authentic alien radio beacon, then we're forced to the conclusion that very few civilizations are broadcasting, maybe none, at least at our magic frequencies, and strongly enough for us to hear. So, consider a civilization like our own, but one which dedicated all its available power, about 10 trillion watts, to broadcasting a beacon signal at one of our magic frequencies and to all directions in space. The meta-results would then imply that there are no such civilizations out to 25 light years, a volume that encompasses perhaps a dozen sun-like stars. This is not a very stringent limit. If, in contrast, that civilization were broadcasting directly at our position in space, using an antenna no more advanced than our Arecibo Observatory, then, if Meta has found nothing, it follows that there are no such civilizations anywhere in the Milky Way galaxy. Out of 400 billion stars, not one. But even assuming they'd want to, how would they know to transmit in our direction? Now consider, at the opposite technological extreme, a very advanced civilization, omnidirectionally and extravagantly broadcasting at a power level 10 trillion times greater. That's 10 to the 26th watts, the entire energy output of a star like the Sun. Then, if the meta-results are negative, we can conclude not only that there are no such civilizations in the Milky Way, but none out to 70 million light-years. None in M31, the nearest galaxy like our own. None in M33, or the Fornax system, or M81, or the Whirlpool Nebula, or Centaurus A, or the Virgo cluster of galaxies, or the nearest Seyfert galaxies. None among any of the 100 trillion stars in thousands of nearby galaxies. Stake through its heart or not, the geocentric conceit stirs again. Of course, it might be a token not of intelligence, but of stupidity to pour so much energy into interstellar and intergalactic communication. Perhaps they have good reasons not to hail all comers. Or perhaps they don't care about civilizations as backward as we are. But still, not one civilization in 100 trillion stars broadcasting with such power on such a frequency. If the meta-results are negative, we have set an instructive limit. But whether on the abundance of very advanced civilizations or their communication strategy, we have no way of knowing. Even if Meta has found nothing, a broad middle range remains open. Of abundant civilizations more advanced than we, and broadcasting omnidirectionally at magic frequencies. We would not have heard from them yet.